So in this circuit, what we'll do is we want to meter out on extension. Okay, so again, let's look at that. Let's listen to that sentence. We want to meter out on extension. So the first question is, when I'm extending, which one is my output? Well, when I'm extending, this is my input, this is my output. So my flow control is going to go on this side. And I'm metering out. So I want to control the oil as it exits the cylinder. So I come here. I put my flow control this way, and the arrow on my needle valve is facing the opposite way from meter in, so it's facing down. Now, when I go into, my directional control valve shifts, oil comes in here, free flow, but all the oil here is restricted on its way out. Because all the oil exiting here cannot come through the bypass, so all the oil that's exiting has to go through the needle valve, and it will come out slow. Then when it shifts back, all the oil will come through the bypass check valve, and this will retract quickly. Now this is meter out on extension, okay? Now, if I want to meter out on retraction, I go through the same process. I say, okay, when I'm retracting, which one's my input, which one's my output? This is my input, this is my output. So my flow control is going to come over to here. And I'm metering out, my arrow is facing this way. So now when I go to extend, all of it flows through the bypass check valve and it will extend quickly. When I go to retract the cylinder, the oil will free flow into here, but all the oil that is exiting the cylinder is going to have to go through the needle valve and get metered on its way out. Okay, and it will retract slowly. So this is a meter out on retraction circuit. Now if I want to meter out in both directions, we go like this. Two needle valves, or two flow control valves, and schematically all the arrows are pointing down. And the oil will, on extension, free flow into the input, but be restricted on the output, and it will go back, it will extend slowly. And when I'm in the retraction, all the oil will free flow through this bypass, through this flow control, but it will, all the oil exiting will flow out through here, back down to tank. And in this circuit, this is what we would refer to as a meter out circuit. Okay, so we'll turn it on. I'm going to activate the cylinder. Now, I notice right away that it is going slow on the extension. All right, now let's see what happens on the retraction. It's going back at its normal speed, and I can tell that I only have one flow control valve hooked up right here. Okay, so let's figure out what's happening. So now if it's extending, there's only two possibilities. We could be metering in on extension or metering out on extension. So the next question you have to ask yourself, well, what is my flow control hooked up to? Well, my flow control in this case is hooked up to my blind end port right here. Okay? So the next question I say is, okay, well, is this my input or my output on extension? Well, when this is extending out, this is my input, this is my output. So what I have here is a meter in, oil comes from my B port, in through here, down into the input of my cylinder when it is extending. When it retracts, it comes back normal under no restriction, but when it comes out, it goes out very slow. So I'm metering in on extension because when this is going out, this is my input. Okay? Now, let's say that's not what I wanted to have happen. I hooked this up and I said, no. I'm not supposed to be metering in on the extension. I'm supposed to be metering in on the retraction. Well, in that case, that's a pretty easy thing to switch up. All we have to do is switch these two hoses right here. I can disconnect my rod end port and my blind end port, and I switch them. So now when I turn this on, what I have is I am now metering in on retraction. It's going slow on retraction, so I'm either metering in on retraction or metering out on retraction. But when I'm retracting, this is my input, and that input is hooked up to this flow control valve. So now I know that I'm metering in on retraction. Now, if I come into this circuit and I switch my hoses on my flow control valve, this is what makes metering in, as I said before, this is what makes metering in and metering out so confusing, is that it actually uses the exact same flow control valve for metering and metering out. What I've done now is, let's turn this on and let's just see if we can figure it out. So I turn this on. It seems to be going back just as fast as ever, but it's going slow on the output. Okay, and I'll really slow this down here so I can talk. So let's start it over. So now I am metering out on extension because I'm extending and I'm restricting the flow. I'm metering it in the extension. So when I'm extending, this is my input, this is my output. Well, my output is attached to my flow control valve, so I know that this is actually going to be running a meter out on extension. Okay? So those are the questions that you want to ask yourself. You want to ask yourself the question.